Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Looks a little bit clearer over here, maybe, hopefully. Got a new camera. I have no idea how this video is gonna go because I literally just pressed record and I'm hoping for the best. So bear with me as I figure it out and hopefully I sort it by the next video, but I'm excited to start filming with a newer camera. It has been far too long, so it's very exciting. Anyways, today's video is on this makeup, but it's not necessarily about the makeup, it's about how I'm applying it. So it's my tips, tricks, hacks for flawless looking, long-lasting makeup, and just some things that I like to do. So if you want to learn or you just simply want to know what I have on my face, then keep on watching. Okay, you guys are gonna have to bear with me because we have a very makeshift situation behind this camera so that I can see if it's still recording, if I'm in focus. It's literally one of my compact mirrors taped to the window. So if you see me like randomly looking here, looks so weird. That is why we're gonna have to get a monitor to sort this out. Also, I don't know if I should use artificial lighting. I'm gonna leave the camera model and the lens that I got in the description, and anyone who knows cameras really well, please leave me your advice, tips and tricks. Would be greatly appreciated. First things first, I feel like it's really underrated to be putting lip balm or a lip treatment on first when you're doing your makeup. This is really helpful, especially if you're gonna use a liquid lipstick or even a matte lipstick at the end of the look. I always put lipstick on last, most people do. But putting this on first just allows your lips to soften throughout the process of doing the rest of your makeup. If you have dry skin, you might wanna skip this step, but I have shown this so many times on my channel. But if you have somehow missed it or you're new to my channel, one of the biggest hacks for oily skin and making your makeup look flawless and lasting all day is putting setting spray and powder, setting powder, prior to applying your foundation. So I'm gonna use the airbrush, the Charlotte Tilbury airbrush flawless setting spray, which I'm almost finished. Ooh, that really came out. Ooh, okay, I'm finished. Pimples on your lip are the worst kind. They are so sore. They have like a little pulse of their own, but ignore that. Okay, so setting powder I'm gonna use is the Laura Mercier translucent powder. This is my favorite one to do this little trick with. So use the one that you like. I wouldn't use like a really tinted one, like one that has a lot of color or coverage or even radiance. I would just use a nice basic simple one. A little bit of the powder on my sponge. Also a damp beauty blender or beauty sponge. This is the Real Technique one, which I love. I love their sponges. And I'm going to tap the areas that produce the most amount of oil. So it's just right beside my nose, my forehead, and my chin. The foundation of choice, which I've had in a couple of tutorials now, is the Shiseido Synchro Skin Foundation. I'm still trying to track down this foundation in a color that's perfect when I have like zero tan on or minimal tan, because I have a little bit of my residue from the weekend self tan on, and this shade I have in Oak is definitely on the darker side, but I just love this. I keep going back to this foundation. It is so good. It's medium to full coverage based on how many layers you do, which is kind of like any medium to full coverage foundation. But I like applying it with the brush, but I also love applying it with a damp beauty sponge. But because we did that technique of the powder first, I'm gonna use a sponge just because I think a brush would move the powder underneath. So this way I'm in control. I'm just patting it on. Just if you have oily skin and you want a bit more coverage, patting is going to give you that, where if you're just swiping on or using your hands, that's more of a light coverage technique. So patting, not going like this or dragging, is going to give you a little bit more coverage. And of course, using it with a beauty sponge reduces the cakiness of it and making it look to full coverage. So it's a win-win situation here. Another tip while we're here, if you're gonna use concealer under your eyes to really, brighten and give a nice clean slate, try not to put your foundation all the way up under your eyes, because that's almost like 2 layers of concealer. Foundation is obviously good in coverage, especially if you're using a medium to full coverage one. So if you're putting it all the way up and then going in with a full coverage concealer, that's where creasing and cakiness just comes in. So try and keep your foundation, right here and blend it out, and then you're gonna go in with your concealer after. If you're not gonna wear concealer, then just go right up to the lash line. We're gonna move on to concealer. My current favorite is the Kosas Revealer, but I also do love the Rose Ink Concealer. I'm gonna take this one today. I have 2.5 Cool. A little trick with concealer, we're over concealing, like doing those massive under eye triangles. completely unnecessary and just is more product for it to cake up and crease. I'm 30, I don't have a lot of creasing, but I still get creasing. I think that's just something that comes into effect after you're like 25. So I like to put it in the inner corner of my eye, almost like the Chanel C's right here. A little bit at the outer corner, not too much because there's not a lot of skin there to blend it out, so you don't want to overdo the outside. And then in any areas, I just want to brighten. So just at the corners of my lips, and lower. And then I'm also just gonna go a little bit above my jaw, and that's just gonna brighten the lower part of my face because I want to try and heighten my cheekbones, which we'll use some other products to do that, but this just kind of helps. So around my eyes, I actually like to blend out last because this is a little bit more of a stretch concealer. Like there's a lot of movement in it. Like it's not clumpy and thick and cakey. So I kind of like to let it sit and set for a little bit. Another tip, let your concealer set for a minute. You can even go in with face spray at this moment if you need a little bit more movement because you put powder on before. But I'm going to start from the bottom of my face and work upwards. And again, in a patting motion, I'm going to go up and out with this concealer. We're starting to add a little bit of dimension now into our face because the foundation created a base and really gave us just a blank canvas, where now we need to add a little bit of light, and then we're going to go in with some depth and definition. So same thing with the eyes. I'm just spot bouncing my sponge. I don't want a lot of product in that center area right under my eyes because that's where the creasing, the creasage, creasing, definitely creasing happens. So I'm really keeping that outer concealer to the outer parts of my eye, and you can see it really brings it up. And then I'm gonna flip it so there's a point. I'm gonna keep this to the inner corner of my eye and bring it a little bit on the side of my nose and down, and then with the least amount of product, I'll swipe it under my eyes. This is gonna be different for everyone based off of the coverage you want, but I just find I get a good amount of coverage, a nice bit of brightness, but I don't have too much creasing doing it this way. Then with the rest, you're gonna put it as a base for your eyelids. And then with the cleaner section on your sponge, you're just gonna lightly bounce it all over so everything's blended, it looks cohesive, making sure there's no creasing happening, and voila. Minimal, but effective. These next couple steps are definitely not needed for every day, but this video is really just for you to take what you need from it. You don't have to do all of these for every single makeup application. You can implement them where you need to in your own makeup, everyday makeup situation. So if you want longevity and a flawless finish with the bronzer contour situation, you're gonna go in with cream first. Cream all over your face in those areas that you want to define, hollow out your cheekbones, your temples, your nose, under your lip to make it look a little bit bigger. And then to set it and to really make sure it's going to stay all day and you don't have to worry about it, I always go on with a powder bronzer. This one's from Sephora in the shade Santorini. Has a little bit more warmth to it. You're always wanting to go up with your brush and never blending down this way because that's when you get into beard territory and it just looks a little muddy and it's just not really the greatest placement. So try and always bring up your brush with the product so that it lifts your face and it defines it nicely. Also, the most common trick in the book, using your bronzer as an eyeshadow to really define your eye sockets. And it's the easiest step because I don't really wear eyeshadow on an everyday basis. So it's like the easiest thing to do to give a little bit of depth in your eye sockets. And it looks like you actually put eyeshadow on, but it's way faster with a bigger brush. Same thing with blush. We're gonna use a cream blush to start off with, Pearl Beauty multi-purpose sticks. I'm gonna mix shades put together and Girl Next Door for a nice rosy pop of pink. I'm gonna use the same brush that I used for the cream bronzer. And then to set it in place, especially on the apples of our cheek where it gets into that oily territory, we're gonna set it with a similar shade in a powder form. Now you could do the same thing with your highlighter, like use a cream highlighter first and then go in with the powder highlighter. I'm just gonna go in with a powder highlighter today. I'm gonna use this Dior palette in Glitz 002 and be precise with the application, keeping it just on the high points of my cheek. A little bit across my eye, between my nose, or between my eyes, tip of my nose. And that's it, just very subtle. Okay, I'm feeling healthy, glowy. If you want to give a little bit more cut perfection to this look, you can go back to your translucent powder, back on the sponge, and you're gonna go right under your bronzer and blush right here, just to sharpen it out ever so slightly. I don't want that to bake or be there for too long, so literally after you apply it, I'm just gonna wipe off the residue, so then you just see a slight bit, but not too much. For brows, I'm wanting to keep it really very minimal today actually, so I'm taking my Precisely My Brow Pencil from Benefit and just lengthening them. That's probably the part I focus on most because I have residue from having microblading done over a year ago. I have like fullness in the front midsection, but at the tail is where it's definitely faded. So I'm just filling in that area and calling it a day. I also need to tweeze because they are getting a little crazy looking. Now we're moving to eyeliner. Again, definitely not something for every day if you don't want to. I love these ones from L'Oreal. It's the Elaners. This one's in Denim Brown. I also like the black, the navy blue, and like the eggplant kind of shade. I'm going to use it very minimally. I'm not going to put it in my waterline. If you want to, you can. I'm going to tightline, however. So this is going to give the appearance that your lashes are a lot thicker, at least at the base. So it's gonna take practice if it's, you know, uncomfortable or awkward putting it in. I've done this so many times, I clearly can do it with my eyes open while talking. But you can see right away, it just gives a little bit more definition to the lash line compared to not doing it. Looking down and the opposite way the pencil's going definitely helps. You can leave it here. I want a little bit of lift with my eyes, so I'm going to roll up the pencil a little bit, go at the outer corner of my eye, literally where my lash ends, close my eye and drag the pencil up very slowly, and I don't want it too much, just a little bit. It's okay if it looks chunky. I'm gonna take my fingernail and sharpen it out. You have some time to be a little bit more flexible with the shape, where if this was liquid, it would be a lot of Q-tips and frustration. So I love doing that. I just do a little stub and then just sharpen it with my nail or my finger. You do the same thing on the other side. So last eyelash, close my eye and then draw it out. Sometimes it's sharp enough, but I like to clean it up with my fingernail always. Okay, you can see the lift. It's nice and streamlined. I love this kind of eyeliner. Moving on to mascara, I 100% recommend getting a really good eyelash curler. I love this one from Tweezerman. I did, however, get an LVL treatment done before vacation, so I think it's still in effect. So I'm going to put down the eyelash curler, but if you want lift and height, eyelash curler, but a good one. Don't get a cheap one, get a good one that's just really gonna lift your lashes. And the postman is here. So awkward. Ooh. It's probably so sketchy for him to just drive in with a massive camera and me sitting on my bed. Anyways, I'm gonna use my favorite mascara that I always come back to. It is the Hourglass Unlocked, not the Hourglass Caution. Definitely the Unlocked. If you're messy like me with applying your mascara, let it dry down. Don't worry about all the little marks. You can just take a spoolie and then rub it off after, and it really reduces the mess factor or it's smudging. So just let the mascara dry. Resist in touching it. Moving on to our lips, this is where putting a lip balm, lip treatment, lip oil, whatever at the start of your makeup really comes into effect so that your lips are ready, they're prepped, good to go. I'm gonna take the Huda Beauty lip liner in Terracota. It's a really beautiful, creamy, deeper, warm brown shade. And we're gonna go through the overlining process to make it look as natural as possible, because I think we're trying to do a little bit more of a natural lip now with the trends, not too much overlining and gloss and intensity. So I naturally have larger lips, but my natural lip color is quite similar to my skin color. So lining my lips is a non-negotiable with my everyday makeup. Like I have to line my lips to give back the shape because they kind of get lost because of the color that they are. So naturally I would have pointier, like a pointier top lip, which I'm trying to embrace. I always wanted like rounder. So you kind of have to go with the shape that you have. So I'm gonna lightly go over my natural line. It's hard to talk and do this. So I've gone a little bit over on this side. You can see it's a little bit more heightened, but it's not intense. I'm gonna do the same on this side. Okay, and that's all the overlining we're gonna do. Follow my natural line right to the corner. With the bottom lip, I'm gonna stay to my natural line just because I have a larger bottom lip, so I just want to equal it out. Although this big friend right here is gonna just make it look a little awkward, so just ignore. And then I'm taking the Kylie Cosmetics Kylie Liquid Lipstick, which is a nice pinky mauve shade, and I'm gonna put it in the center. Something I always do whenever I have on my lips, I always pat it out and put a little bit on my eyes, almost as a cream eyeshadow, just because I think it really ties the look together and it makes it a little bit more monochromatic, which I love. Okay, this is my more flawless, finished looking, still very much everyday, but a lot more added steps if you want longevity and a little bit more of a flawless finish. Another trick that I kind of do whenever I have no like setting powder with me, if I need to top up throughout the day, is grabbing a piece of toilet paper and taking one ply off so that it's the thinnest piece and just blotting it all over my face. It doesn't ruin, move, change my makeup at all. It literally just lifts the oil out. I've been doing that literally since high school. Oily girl hack right there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Have a wonderful day and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.